People have been asking me if Brian Sims showed up. And, of course, no, he didn't. He did not show up. There was a little chance that he would. I would have loved to see him. I would have loved for him to come, but I didn't expect that he would. Sims is a pariah now to Planned Parenthood, perhaps even more than he is in the pro-life movement. I think Planned Parenthood probably hates him more now than they do us, because I'm sure they blame him for the fact that 1,000 pro-lifers showed up to their front, were standing in their front yard. Well, not really in their front yard. We were on public property. But the fact that there were 1,000 pro-lifers outside of their building, they blame him for that, not without reason. And so he was never going to show up. And not only that, but it's not just that Sims didn't come. There were also almost no counter-protestors, which did not surprise me either. That isn't surprising. There never are very many who come to these kinds of things. They don't show up to the March for Life or any other pro-life event, even if you think, well, this is the kind of thing where you would, like, where is Antifa? Isn't this what Antifa's made for, is to show up at something like this? I didn't expect them to come, and they didn't. Why is that? Well, I think there are two reasons. One, they don't want to engage, right? They can't defend their position, and they know it. So they pick on the weak and the vulnerable. They pick on, they're like, lions who are looking for the weak, injured gazelle separated from the pack to go after. And I'm being way too flattering to them and comparing them to lions, because they're not at all. Maybe hyenas or something would be a better comparison. But they're looking, they'll come after you if you're by yourself. And if they think that you're not going to be able to, if they think you won't be able to or won't be willing to defend yourself. So Brian Sims was going after kids. He was going after the older woman who would have been perfectly capable of defending herself, but she decided to remain silent, which I think was a very good decision on her part. She let him basically, dig his own grave, as it were, bury himself with his words, and he did. So she made the right decision. And that's what they're looking for. If they think that, okay, there are going to be people there who will engage with me and argue with me and do so, competently, well, they don't want any part of that. So they're not going to be there. The second reason, though, why we didn't see any counter-protesters is the pro-abortion movement, you have to understand, is much smaller and much more lethargic. And that's the fact of the matter. Now, I say the pro-abortion movement is much smaller than the pro-life movement. Yet, abortion is still legal almost everywhere in the country, right? So why is that, if I'm claiming that the one movement is so much bigger than the other? Well, that's because the vast majority of people are not part of either movement. Most people aren't in any movement at all. They're not interested in moving one direction or another. They just want to sit back and float. And that's where most people are. The vast majority are indifferent, intellectually lazy, and they're kind of in the middle. And that means they're going to go with the status quo. They're going to go with the way that, just the direction that the water happens to be flowing. And so the status quo is abortion in our society. But in terms of actually getting people, and that's the ace they have up their sleeve, is that they know that, they don't have an energetic and large movement, but they also know that most people are just going to go with whatever they say. In terms of actually getting people mobilized, they could never do what we just did in a week. They could never do that. I mean, I would challenge them to try, but they can't. They're never going to do that, just like they're never going to get a march the size of the March for Life. The most they could do is they had the one women's march, but they claimed that was not a pro-abortion march. That was just a march for women. So as far as an event that explicitly deals with this issue, they're not going to do anything like what we did today or what the March for Life does or in many other kinds of similar events.